Milwaukee Police Chief Edward Flynn is with us in the room. And Chief Flynn, if you could stand up. You have said something, because so much of what this town hall is about is trying to find a way to bridge the divide. But you said, quote, "Without any hyperbole, police officers in American cities care more about black lives than any other institution. Police officers of America's cities are the only ones dying to protect black lives." I'm curious what you mean by that and what you expect to see in the final 6 months of this presidency.
A lot's expected of you, Mr. President, and why should I be any exception?
Well, as Michelle said, I volunteered for the job, so I can't complain.
I'm basically going to ask you to figure out a way to cross parallel conversations. And I think it's going to transcend the duration of your presidency, which imposes a special burden on you because of your unique place in history. The parallel conversations you've in fact implicitly alluded to in the course of our conversation today. For the urban police chiefs in America, we are primarily judged by our ability to lower levels of violence in disadvantaged communities of color. In those communities, crime has not significantly gone down. It's gone down in some place called America. But in those neighborhoods, there's easy access to firearms, to which you've alluded, and there are extraordinary rates of violence. Nationally, African Americans represent 51% of our homicide victims, with about 13% of the population. In our cities, it's more like 80%. And like most homicides, offenders look like the people that they victimize. It's an urban tragedy, but the heart of the police dilemma is those neighborhoods that demand our services, need us the most, request us the most, depend upon us the most, for social and historical reasons, distrust us. And when there's a series of critical incidents like we've recently seen, that distrust is in high relief. We can't protect them effectively if we're not trusted, and the police are needed, as you've said, in those neighborhoods. And so the challenge is, how do we talk about both things at the same time without acting like we're blaming the African American community for their victimization, or that we're assuming that all police are racially biased? The disparities in the system, you walk into any courtroom in any city in America, it's overwhelmingly filled with African American victims and witnesses. They feel this violence most keenly. And obviously police are rocked back on their heels when an incident anywhere in America calls into question what they're doing wherever they are. I understand the Black Lives Matter movement exists because there's a sensibility that black lives didn't matter, all right? And that's for a number of social and historical reasons. It gets to exist and to advance that agenda. Doesn't mean anybody else's life doesn't matter. But for us, the problem's this. All there is the police in the community. There's no cavalry coming. Many of our cities are in states that are dominated by interests that act like the cities are the enemy. State legislators want to help us do something about guns. All right, what was that man doing with an assault rifle? I mean, fine, go to the funeral of the 5 cops, but how did that guy get that assault rifle, and why could he walk down the street with it and then use it? Okay, that requires some political courage. It requires mass movements. There's a lot of moving pieces here. So we have to work together. We know that. And everything that divides us makes us all more vulnerable. Makes the police more vulnerable, makes the community more vulnerable. They're the ones that need us the most. And so the challenge, the easy challenge I offer you in the next 6 months, but also I would also hope beyond that, is to use your authority, your influence, and your prestige as a convener to continue this discussion, because I don't think things are going to get enlightened during this election. Okay? And so that conversation is going to have to take place parallel to this election and beyond it if we're going to make that joint progress, because those neighborhoods depend upon us for their safety, and the police depend upon those neighborhoods for their safety.
Well, I appreciate what you said, Chief. Let me just pick up on a couple of themes that you said. Number one, it is absolutely true that the murder rate in the African American community is way out of whack compared to the general population, and both the victims and the perpetrators are black, young black men. The single greatest cause of death for young black men between the ages of 18 and 35 is homicide. And that's crazy. That is crazy. And so we have to acknowledge that. And that means that we can't put the burden on the police alone. It is going to require investments in those communities. It is going to require making sure the schools work. It's going to require having after-school programs. It's going to require making sure that as young people start getting into high school, that they are given a path for a productive life. And it doesn't always involve a 4-year college education. It might require job training or community colleges. It's going to require, in some cases, mental health support. It requires us thinking about how we're looking out for single moms, because a large proportion of kids are being raised in a single-parent household. And then it is going to require us to look at things like guns. Now, this is tough. I have presided over more memorials of mass shootings than I would like. And it's heartbreaking. But that doesn't even count the hundreds of kids just in the south side of Chicago who've been shot. And part of what makes the police community interaction so fraught with potential danger is because police officers who have a right to come home so that mom's not worried, they are aware of the fact that there's just a lot of guns washing around there. And they don't know what might happen. Which means you're going to be your adrenaline's going to be a little higher and it's going to be tougher. Now, the truth is that the politics of firearms and having a conversation about this right now is very difficult. In the Lieutenant Governor's home state, you've got open carry laws. It is a testament to the professionalism of the Dallas Police Department that more people did not get shot, because when the snipers started shooting, you had people in the protests who were carrying long rifles. And so they weren't even sure who was doing the shooting. So we do have to make sure that we're thinking about making these communities healthy generally, and not see that as separate from police-community relations, and I will do so.